I think it's very interesting what you did because most of the times people try to make more money passively here in the States to sustain a certain lifestyle, right? You thought out of the box. You thought, hey, why don't I go into a different country where, the ratio, the dollar exchange ratio is different, right? The living expenses are significantly different.
John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly, like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of the
Hello,
two.
this
If
is
I give
John
them the
Lee,
two,
your
six,
local
seven.
real estate agent in the greater Philadelphia area. I'm here with David Lee, a good real estate buddy of mine.
Okay.
He has a very awesome story that I wanted to share in this podcast. He lives in Brazil, has been living there in the past 2 years. He invests in Philadelphia, which, obviously where I met him, and he is from New York. So he has a very interesting story of how he kind of does his thing, how he invests remotely, and also just the lifestyle that he has in Brazil and how that is a very important story that I want to share with you guys. So, Dave, um, give our audience a little bit of an introduction about yourself and what you got going on.
Hi, my name is David. In the beginning, I was a mechanical engineer. I started as a mechanical engineer. Got during COVID, I was a medical engineering manufacturing manager.
Hmm.
So I was working a lot creating ventilators and got kind of crazy with it. Uh, while working, I was doing real estate. Let's start back in the beginning. I bought a few houses. Like my first house was an apartment in New Jersey. And then afterwards, I started buying a couple of buildings in Philadelphia. So I had my side hustle as real estate. And then during COVID, yeah, I had my hustle and I had my full-time job. So during COVID, I was working a lot and also doing the side hustle. But then during a little bit after COVID, I realized that my side hustle was making enough money to live in Brazil. And so I moved down here. And that's the general situation of my life.
Right, right. I mean, there's so much to that story, which obviously we'll unpack. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Like, you're from New York, right? Right? Were you always from New York? I mean, you mentioned that you bought a house in Jersey, but from the time that obviously you were kind of like living in New York, New Jersey, to like making your way eventually into Philadelphia, like, give us that backdrop.
So I went to school all my school life. My education was in New York. I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, and university in New York. Uh, yeah, I studied engineering in NYU. And then while and then I started to, work in New York and all that. How I ended up in Philadelphia. So I was actually I when my first house I bought it in New Jersey. So in New Jersey I bought it, and then I moved down there to live in that house. And then I got a job in Lakewood, New Jersey. It was in the middle of New Jersey. So I
Hmm.
realized that the location of my first house was too far from the location of my job. So I moved to Philadelphia. So that's how I ended up in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Okay. And for our audience, how did we meet?
We met in the real estate community. Like
Yep.
that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's like the best. Like in
Yeah.
terms of you want to make connections. Of course, you need to utilize those connections in order
Right.
to like fully be able to profit off of it.
Right. Right. And how are you, like, why'd you pick Philadelphia as a market? Obviously, there's so many other different markets you could have chosen, but you chose Philadelphia. Why?
That was actually a very easy choice. It was close to New York City.
Hmm.
It was like an hour and a half away. Yeah, and it was a cheaper market. You go where the market is. And at first, I invested in Jersey City,
Hmm.
because it was cheap. It was cheaper than New York City. However, it wasn't good enough for investing. So I started looking into the wider area. So I ended up in Philadelphia.
Hmm. And as you got into Philadelphia, you built some roots there. You actually lived in Philadelphia after, right?
Yeah, I stayed there for like about 2 years ish,
Yeah.
give or
Yeah.
take. Not quite remember the exact times because I knew that you gotta be where the action is to fully utilize like the resources there.
Hmm.
So there I made a lot of connection. You guys have obviously, but also my contractor, some of my other agents. I know you're one of them. And yeah, just people to like get to know, just to build trust because in this business, like yeah, money comes and goes, but like trust is just so hard to find. Like
Right,
good.
right. And it's working with good people, people who obviously you said you can trust and build those relationships. So for our beginners, right, like people who are starting off, like what would you suggest for them? Because you are not only like you're not from Philadelphia, right? Like you were obviously from New York, and now you're living in Brazil, and you've been living there in the past 2 years, doing the same thing, investing in Philadelphia. Like, what are some suggestions you have for the newer listeners as far as like building that trust, building the team that's needed to, for real estate?
Well, you go through a lot of people that you can trust. Like there's situations where like you have some contractors that are like, oh, you're not that great. You just have to, I hate to say it, but you just have to go through people, get recommendations from other people, and see who do you trust. After a while, you'll get that one or two guys who are like, you're like, oh, they're good.
Right.
It's hard. You have to just keep at it. I remember I had one contractor that we hired. He was having like towards the middle of the contract, he was having a financial difficulty, and he was begging me for more money, even though he didn't finish his work.
Right.
So I had to let him go because that wasn't working. That relationship wasn't working out.
Right.
But for some reason, my current contractor that I trust right now, I found him because he was cleaning my house. He It was the weirdest connection. He was cleaning my house. He was actually doing like a COVID sanitation for my house. And I had an issue on in my one of my walls, and he was talking to me about that issue on my wall. It was like a dog kind of bit it. My previous tenant's dog like bit the shit out of the frame. And and then I was talking to him about this frame, and he was like giving me guidance and all that. And I
Yeah.
eventually just hired him for this framework, and he did a good job. And
Yeah.
then he himself started to create a contracting business, and then I started hiring him for like bigger and bigger projects, and eventually like now he's doing my buildings.
So was he a handyman that like kind of built himself as a contractor, or like how did that relationship form?
Yeah, he no, he was a cleaner that became a handyman
Yeah.
that became a contractor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now he's my general contract. Now he's gonna probably be my project manager sooner or later. But
Right.
it was such the oddest like connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find people anywhere, but you just kind of have to filter them out.
Right. So you're just saying that honestly, you just have to go with the ebbs and flows of it, giving people the chance, right? And going through the experience yourself and figuring out whether or not, it works out, I guess the best way to put it, right?
And also recommendations.
Hmm.
But
Right.
at the same time, some people like me, I will be very like I want to keep my contractor around my business. I'm a little
Yeah.
bit like not telling everyone about him in
Yeah.
a sense.
Which
So
I
he's
get, which I get. There are, times where like, if you don't, and it's true, if you don't keep your contractor busy, then they're gonna find different ways to get busy, whether it's with you or with someone else. So a lot of the times, contractors don't necessarily have loyalty to you,
oh,
as an
and it,
investor, and nor should they, because they have
yeah,
a business to run.
yeah, they're not your employee, they're your
Right.
contractors.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about this transition, right? So, you went like full time as an engineer, right? I mean, you mentioned to me that you didn't like working as an engineer, you didn't like working in your career. You ended up giving up that career to go to Brazil, and now you're living off of your investments. So, like,
Yeah.
walk us through that. What really made you do that? Like what inspired you to do all that?
Okay, so I was making good money as an engineer. I won't say I don't love it. It was just such a crazy time because it was COVID and I was creating ventilators. And I'm sure your viewers know that ventilators are super important. So I was manufacturing them during COVID, and I was working long ass
Right,
hours.
right,
So I would say that why I moved to Brazil, how I'm able to move to Brazil was that first I had to quit my job, obviously. That took me a while. And then you have roots. Your roots could be your family, your friends, your girlfriend. these are very important, and these what makes you stay at one location. For me, I broke up with my girlfriend of 9 years at that time, so I only had my job and my family as my main roots. Then at the same time, I wanted to leave my job, so I told my boss, "Hey, um, get me fired. Like, lay me off, lay me off." It took them like 4 months to lay me off, so eventually they laid me off. Now I saw my family there, which is you can't get rid of your family. So my only routes to New York was my mom and dad and my sister. And I realized that hey, they're not living my life. So because I don't have these roots, I moved down to Brazil. The most important thing about leaving to Brazil is that you need money
Right.
because you can't really work in a at least in my job, I can't work online that much because I'm a manufacturer, so we need to be in factories. Um, so I had to set up a system where I can get my income, enough income to survive. So that's where my side hustle, real estate, came in, where I just basically did the punch the numbers and found that I can make enough money to live in a certain country, which is Latin America, and but I can't live in other countries like Japan or anywhere in Europe, for instance. So that's why I decided to be in Brazil. And there's also another reason why I was in Brazil because I came here like 4 times already because I was having a lot of fun. But the main thing was like, how do I get money? So the real estate helped with that. Yeah, yeah, that helped. It is actually the the reason why I'm in Brazil is because of real estate.
Yeah. 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 I think it's very interesting what you did because most of the times people try to make more money passively here in the States to sustain a certain lifestyle, right? You thought out of the box. You thought, hey, why don't I go into a different country where, the ratio, the dollar exchange ratio is different, right? The living expenses are significantly different. So I'm sure that was a factor that played into the part, right? Of you
Yeah.
living in Brazil with the income that you were making. So briefly walk us through that and the details of that, of what your thought process was financially.
So like in terms of like I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? Like
Yeah, so like in terms of like making that decision financially, like
mm,
I think it's pretty evident, right, that the ratio, like the dollar ratio, is better here, or better in Brazil than it would be in the States, right?
mhm,
Like you can
yes.
get more for your dollar in Brazil than you can in the States.
Yeah,
That was definitely a factor, right?
yeah.
So, explain to us a little bit about the details of that. Like, what are some examples? I mean, I know, right? I can give you an example. Like, when you go to Brazil, right? Like, the steakhouse is like a high-end steakhouse.
You want me to go into detail of my living expenses or
Yes, yes, yeah,
okay, okay. That's no problem.
yeah,
So currently I'm living in a big studio apartment, good for one person, which is that's all I need.
right,
Uh, I spend about I guess I'm going to translate to dollars because your viewers are American.
yeah.
Um, I spend about $900 per month here. So that's
Mind you that you're in the heart of Rio. Like, you're like I've been to your condo, I've been to your apartment, so I know exactly where you are. You're in the heart of Rio. So
yeah. I'm
it's
2 minutes
like
from the
living in the
beach.
center city of Philadelphia
Walking.
or Manhattan in New York.
Yeah, I'm 2 minutes walking. I'm 2 minutes walking from the beach, like the one of the prettiest beach here,
Yeah.
to Ipanema. Um, if you guys know the song like "Girl from Ipanema," so that's where I am. So I live in the center of the city. I'm literally 2 minutes walk from the beach. I'm like about 20 minutes walk from the mountains. So it's the perfect place because it's a beach city
Right.
mountains. So
Right.
I'm pretty much in the heart of Brazil. So my apartment, my studio is $1,000, give or take. Um, but I could get it cheaper if I lived in like no more north of the city because I live in like literally the second best neighborhood in the whole country. Let's see what else. So I have my electricity, internet is covered with my rent. Um, in terms of food, I guess food is probably the biggest. I eat out pretty much every day. sadly, sadly. Uh, and I spend pretty much around $10 per meal
Right.
on, so maybe, and I cook one of the meals, so I eat out, so it's around like $300 for lunch,
Right.
and I cook the other one, and then for dinner, sometimes I cook, sometimes I eat out. So give or take, my budget is around 500, $600 per month.
Mhm.
Uh, that's separate from actually taking my dates. So I also have dates because and I'm in Brazil, so it's a lot of pretty ladies here. So my dates, in terms of dates, I like to take them out on drinks and on kind of slightly fancy dinners. And give or take, they're like $60. So yeah, around $60. That's a good number. And I take them probably twice a week. So that's about another 400. So I know I spend about 2,500 a month.
Right. So
And
like,
what else do I need in life? Food, shelter. That's about it. Oh, and I also have personal trainers and therapists, a personal trainer, therapist, and a fight coach. So my therapist cost me $700. Sorry, 700 reais. So it's a dollar, 150. My therapist cost me another 150, and my fighting costs another $60. So give or take another 400. So give or take, my life is probably $2,600. So I have a lot of systems here, as you can hear.
right, right. And for our listeners, Uber is uber cheap.
Yeah,
So
I don't even count that. 'Cause it's so cheap
yeah,
here.
yeah. So put it in perspective. How much are you like? If you, I mean, I'll tell our audience. So like, I can go from one city, like for maybe 15-minute drive would be what, like $5. Is like a fair assessment?
Not even. That's like, it's like maybe $4. It's like as
Yeah,
much as the metro,
yeah.
the New York City Metro.
And then in the culture, what surprised me was the tipping. Like no one tips, and if you do tip, most of the times it's included in the gratuity, and the gratuity is ranging what between like 10-15%. It's less than 20, right?
Yeah, it's like 10 to 12.
Okay, there
And
you
I
go.
don't know where you got your tips from. Who tried you?
Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised about that too. Like I almost felt guilty because I was expecting to tip, like when you give them your credit card and then on the bottom there's like the space where you can put gratuity.
Mhm.
Most of the times they would just give me the receipt back, and I'm like, I guess you don't want to get tipped, so like yeah, it was kind of a weird
Yeah,
thing, but
no tipping allowed.
yeah,
So yeah, in the end it's 2,600. So it's under 3,000, definitely under
yeah,
3,000.
yeah,
And yeah, I make enough to cover that and then a little bit more some.
right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's to live like a pretty decent lifestyle. It's not like I mean, it's obviously you're not like, like going like luxury, but you're I mean, you're pretty high class. You would be considered pretty high class at that point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm living this area. I'm definitely, I would say, not upper middle, up probably rich here,
Yeah.
like lower rich
Yeah.
here, definitely lower rich here. But I would say, like, if I have kids and stuff, it'll be a little bit more difficult,
Right.
uh, which is I'm actually trying to prepare for. That's why I'm doing more projects. It's because like you want to take them to like the high end private school and all that.
Right.
Yeah. So, but that also offers a lot of opportunities here in terms of real estate.
Right.
Do you want me to start just talking about that in terms of opportunities, like being outside of in this world of
Yeah, for
Brazil?
sure. Yeah, let's talk about that because, like, for you, right? Like, you have such a unique story to share with people while you're in Brazil. Like, hey, I'm an American that invests in a city that I don't technically, I didn't grow up in, but I'm very familiar with, and I have experience in it. And you've probably met so many, you lived there for 2 years, right? So you are interacting with so many different people, and I'm sure you're meeting up with, we call them gringos, right? Other gringos, right? If you
Yeah.
can explain to us what gringos are, by the way, you're meeting up with other gringos as well as like native Brazilians. So just kind of explain to our audience those experiences and how that ties in with real estate.
Oh yeah. So gringos are basically non-Brazilians. We're all called gringos. I meet a lot of them going to a lot of conference. So being in Brazil, I have a lot of time on my hands because I don't work here because the salary here is so low that it's just not worth my time. So I spend a good 6 months on the beach, pretty much. Then I stopped. I realized that I need to start being more motivated because as motivated as I was in New York City, once you hit the beach, motivation just leaves you, and you're like, I like this. I want to stay here on the beach for 6 months. So I did that, but then after a while, I'm like, hey, maybe I should go back into real estate game. So I'm back. Um, so Brazil offers me an interesting opportunity because I meet a lot of gringos, people coming from all over the world. They have money, so they are also interested in investing. I'm part of an investing group, a real estate investing group. It's not just real estate, just investing group, and we talk about business. But there's also another side to it where if you meet everyone in Brazil, you get to meet Brazilians, native Brazilians that are very, very wealthy. Um, I feel like these people are richer than Americans are, and they're very willing to invest Americans in American real estate because the real estate here in Brazil is kind of very corrupt in a sense, corrupt. So they're very interested in meeting people like me to to uh to develop projects for them. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now is trying to look for my next project to see how I can like basically utilize their money. Yeah, these individuals, and at the same time, these individuals are very like very hard to meet because if you know most rich people, they're very closed off and they're not as they're very closed off because they need to trust you in order to invest in you. So
Mhm.
to develop that trust, you need to be where they're at, literally in fancy restaurants, having lunch with them and all that, having that soft connection and that's what I've been doing here and just developing that soft connection. Now I have a person or two that trust me and I can utilize their resources to invest.
You know, it's awesome because guess where you are? I mean, you're eating at the finest restaurants, you're at like, the finest places, whether it's a cigar shop or, you know what I mean? You're probably at all the high-end places that all the wealthy or uber wealthy people are.
Mhm.
And in Brazilian standards, you are very well off. And for you to meet and network with like those groups of people, and for you to be connected, that's such a beautiful thing. And obviously, you've gained a lot of trust, right? Because you've been living there for 2 years, and you've built a sense of community there, right?
Yep.
So, how's that? How's that turning out for you so far?
Great. Next week I have a rooftop party that I'm DJing
Oh
in.
yeah, oh yeah. We gotta tell our audience this. You're a DJ too. Yeah,
I I was bored, so I was like, I need a hobby. So I took up DJing, so I became a DJ.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I usually have like a DJ gig once a week, but it's like, I mean, to be honest, I don't get paid too much for it. Like
Right.
maybe like $30 per like set, but I don't really even I see that as lunch.
Yeah.
So so yeah, I DJ here now. Yeah, that's what else do I do? Yeah, I just DJ here pretty much. I do Muay Thai here. Yeah, I don't do much. I don't do much. Now I'm trying to find my next project. That's
Yeah.
gonna
I
be
mean, I can
stressful
tell
me.
what you do. You weightlift at the beach.
Yeah.
So in Brazil, they have like Muscle Beach, right? Is that what they call it? Like equivalent of it? But you guys call
Yeah,
it
I
the
call
Flintstone Gym.
Flintstone Beach.
Yeah, the Flintstone Gym or Flintstone Beach, where all the weights are outside. So that's pretty cool. And then you also obviously train Muay Thai. So you've been getting into that striking game. And then DJing is the one that I think is kind of funny because like I think that brings you a lot of networking too, right? Like opportunities, meeting with a lot of people,
Yeah, not so much the investment rich people, but
right?
mostly for like just the
Social.
social aspect of
Yeah,
it
yeah,
because
yeah.
you just meet so many people, other DJs, people are interested in DJing. Some of you are girls.
Right, right,
And yeah, it's just a good social networking opportunity here.
right,
And you get invited to a lot of stuff, like yeah, rooftop parties and a lot of rooftop parties, like the penthouse parties and all that.
right, right.
Yeah, and then also my friends are the organizers too. So I have a little network here that's pretty pretty cool. Yeah. And if any of your viewers wants to join me, yeah, give me a call. I'm down. I'll
Dude,
show more.
you were a great tour guide, by the way, while we were there. We really enjoyed it. We definitely
I
went
wish you
to
stayed
all the.
longer.
Say it again.
I wish you stayed longer.
Dude, I wish that too. I think it would have been more memorable if it didn't rain the first 2 days, because that's kind of for our listeners. I was there with Jen for about a week in Brazil, and it rained like the first 2 days, so I feel like it took a little bit off of us. But after that, it was definitely awesome. Yeah, and it definitely helped that we went to Bruno Mars's concert, so that was. Oh, also, concerts are very affordable. You got to let our audience know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like a concert, like we got like Pista Premium, which is the pretty much the front row ish seats for like literally $125.
Right.
Or they could be cheaper too, depending on
Right.
like if they sold out or not.
Right.
But yeah, I usually go to concerts for $125, front row ish. I tend to be in the back because I don't want to be with kids. And also I went to a festival for another $100. Um, I'm starting to listen to more heavy metal, going to mosh pits and stuff. So I went to like pretty much once every 3 weeks I go to a concert, front row.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I mean the next one's probably like Linkin Park or like, and then the one there's Shakira's coming down, so probably go
Right.
to that one too.
And these are like legit artists too. It's not like you're seeing like, you know what I mean, like some corny artists or no name artists or up and coming artists. These are all like big name artists, which is amazing. Um,
Yeah, yeah, they come down.
Yeah, yeah. So, just for our audience, so that they have a good understanding of the culture in Brazil, like what are some things that you felt like you had to adapt to, or some things that you felt like you really appreciated about the country, or a combination of both? What were some of the things about the culture that you either really appreciated, or some of the things that were just different from what you were used to when you first arrived, or some things that you had to get used to as you were, as you were living in the country?
So now that your roots are cut and you're living in Brazil or in any country, you must first learn the language, obviously. In order to live in a place, you need to learn the language. So that's like one of the most difficult things to get used to. And then the next thing is you start having roots here. Like you need to start like establishing your systems, like working out, doctors and all that. So those were the kind of the difficulties, quote unquote, setting up. Also, like your apartment, when you first come here, you're like Airbnb all the time. You're spending a month here, a month there, trying to get used to the place, but you're constantly moving and yeah, you're constantly moving. So that's like one thing you need to get used to for like a good 6, 7 months. And then eventually you'll find an apartment that you like. And then that's when you start settling. Yeah, so that's a setting up aspect of it. So culturally, in terms of culture, Brazilians are very nice people. They're very amazing people. They're just nice. It's a little dangerous here because there's also like the favelas, which is like kind of the ghetto areas and people steal. But once you get used to that and know like your way around, like the people are very nice and welcoming. What are things about this culture that's get used to? Not so much. I mean, the food here is not as great as in New York City. So, like Asian food, I'm Asian, so I need good Chinese food. So the Chinese food here is terrible. It's garbage. Uh, so yeah, that's actually my main thing was Chinese food. There's no good Chinese food here. Um, what else? No, the weather's better. Everything else is better. I don't miss New York at all. Yeah, I don't miss New York. In fact, when I'm in New York, I miss Brazil. So yeah, I can't really think of too much that's like bad about
Yeah. Well,
this.
it seems like Brazil is home to you, especially when I'm when I'm talking with you and like we're having these deep discussions. It seems like you found something that's been very special to you. Um,
And everyone's different.
yeah,
This happens to be my home because I love certain aspects of it.
right,
Um, but you know, some people not like love the beach, might not love cities, so they might have other places that
right,
other cities or areas that they love more. But this happens to be the best fit for me
right,
because some people might not used to the danger here
right.
because we are very close to like quote unquote the ghettos, like even the nice areas is close to the ghettos. So you
Right.
just kind of have to get used to that and understand what the unspoken rules are.
Well, I mean, I was there, right? So, like, where you were living and kind of like where like the beaches were and whatnot, like, I didn't feel unsafe.
Wow, I didn't take you to the really dangerous places.
Okay, but there were when you told us to take when you told us to go to the Bruno Mars concert, and then when we were going towards like the stadium, like for the soccer games,
Yeah.
it changed. The landscape definitely changed. So I can see what you were saying, and there was a level of like awareness that like I had because I'm with Jen, right? So like my priority, is to make sure she's safe and she's being
Mhm.
protected. So I was like, I did have my head on a swivel on some of the locations because like you can clearly see that the landscape was changing as I was going deeper and further away from the
Welcome
city.
to the developing country, baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think also at the same time, I think people might have that misconception that like Brazil is like Colombia, right? Where it's like, you know what I mean? Where $1 is an equivalent of like $10. That wasn't the impression that I got when I got to Brazil. I think it's an area where your dollar does go further, but you know, I mean, maybe you can explain that like the details of like what the comparisons would be.
Yeah, so like when I was deciding where to live, there are cheaper places like Argentina, other places like Ecuador, Peru. Um, but again, it's about your lifestyle and what do you want. So I needed a city, I wanted a beach. So Rio de Janeiro habitats and the people. People here have a very physical lifestyle,
Yes.
like very working out. I wanted that. Also, people here are very beautiful, like girls and guys.
Mm,
So those who think they want to go to Brazil and they're like not physically attractive, they'll probably have a hard time here because you also need to be physically attractive to in order to get the girls. That's just you can't just have money here. Like that's a very big misconception.
mhm.
Like, oh, just because I'm a gringo that have money, that all the girls will come flock to me. So that's not true here. I'm not sure about other countries, but here that's how it is. I mean, in any case, um, yeah, I just needed like for me, I needed a place to like fit all my needs, and this happened to be the right place. Uh, it's right now it's 1 to 6 in terms of currency. I think Argentina is like 1 to 500 right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
So the lifestyle there is better. I can't talk too much about Chile and other places because I haven't been there, but I know that Brazil's not the cheapest place, but it's also has what you need in terms of systems and like
Right.
luxury too. They have good food.
Right.
I've heard that other countries here just doesn't have really good food in general.
Right.
So Brazil have Brazilian food. Brazil has everyone knows Brazil for their meats, like their
Right.
steakhouses, and it's true. Like their steakhouses is number one.
Right. Right. Well, it's a beautiful thing because I feel like you've not only embraced the culture, but you embraced the hardest thing, like language, right? Like, dude, I was with you and you were speaking Portuguese. I was like, oh shit, dude, like this dude is like he fully immersed into the culture. you're obviously dating someone that's native to Brazil, right? So obviously that, I'm sure you have to be able to speak the language. So Portuguese, obviously you're great at. You're improving yourself as far as like, you're getting at least what, lessons twice a week for Portuguese, right?
Yeah, give
Yeah,
or take, give
yeah,
or take. But
yeah,
the most important thing is to have a Brazilian, a Brazilian who orders you to like
yeah,
learn Portuguese. But to be honest, I appreciate that you say my Portuguese is good because I was on a double date yesterday,
yeah,
and my friend who also lived here for only a year and a half has better Portuguese than me, and he
right,
also learned from scratch. So I am not very good at languages.
yeah.
I just need it. I just need to survive and talk to people, which
Well,
is
the important part is that you embraced it, right?
yeah.
There are a lot of people that could easily just be like, you know what, like, fuck it. I'm just speaking English the whole time, And then, like, maybe they would have enjoyed being in Brazil, maybe they wouldn't, but part of that is embracing the culture, right? The culture comes with the language. So, that's a true testament to you wanting to understand something that is different for most people, but also taking that bold step, right, into going into a complete, like a place that's completely unknown to you, and really like diving in head first is a true, like, it's an amazing story, in my personal opinion. I think so many people run that the rat race, right, of trying to have a certain lifestyle here in the States, and trying to make as much money and not really finding purpose of why they're doing it. But I think for you, you found a lot of purpose in being in Brazil, and that's kind of like what your calling is, so to speak. And honestly, I'm genuinely happy for you, man. And when I talked to you, or when I met you, it seemed like you were enjoying it. So
Yeah, it's definitely I'm living my best life here.
yeah,
But it's not an easy road, and I'm sure I probably was in the same boat as a lot of your viewers in the beginning, like a dead end job. Not dead end job. It was just a job that I didn't enjoy, and
right,
then I didn't get, and then I just I mean, like I said before, roots is you need to understand what your roots are and what your value what your priorities are. I happen to be a little bit selfish and a little bit crazy too, and decided, hey, I don't have enough roots in New York or in Philadelphia, so I just moved down to Brazil, and established my roots here. But money is also important. Like the reality of things is that money is very important, and you still need a job. You need something to do.
right.
So this real estate thing is a good job to
For
do.
sure, for sure. And I'm going to wrap this up for our listeners, but if any of our listeners had questions about, either going to Brazil, either for a vacation, or just like questions about like the decision that you made to like quit your job and then go, live in a remote country, where can they follow you, listen to you, reach out to you, get in contact with you?
Oh, so I have an Instagram. Everyone in Brazil has it. It's at two, as in the number two, many Davids, too many Davids. Yeah, on Instagram. Just follow me. Send me a message. Say you saw John's podcast, and I'll answer you. Yeah, and you'll see all my like DJ stuff and Brazil stuff, and hope you like it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I'll make sure that I put your handle in the description below. And yeah, Dave, this is awesome. I'm glad that you were a guest on this show, and love to go to Brazil again and meet you again, brother.
Yeah, you're always welcome. You guys are always welcome. Yeah, give me send me contact, and I'll get back to you guys.
All
Okay.
right, brother. I'll see you.
All right. Ciao.
All right, bye. John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of the 215, even the 267, who always helping like, oh, no time for no student.